Joe Biden is an establishment politician, and he represents that brand of American politicians who simply cannot tolerate peace in any part of the world. So, Biden has been putting several regions of the world at risk of conflict, one after another. Up until now, Biden has targeted Ukraine, the Black Sea, and the Korean Peninsula. Now, the US president is also putting the Middle East at risk of a big conflict. Biden has been putting the entire region on fire, first by emboldening Palestine and Hamas to launch rockets against Israel, and now by making Iraq a venue of geopolitical competition between many regional powers. So, what has Biden done to Iraq, and what will be its consequences? Hi, and welcome. This is TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm your host Shubhangi, and in this video I will tell you about Biden's misadventures in Iraq that have made the country a venue of geopolitical competition amongst regional powers. Let's begin. When it comes to the Middle East, most American presidents try to keep the region on the boil and undermine any chances of even temporary peace. However, former US President Donald Trump was an exception to this general theory. He tried to inculcate peace in the region with his revolutionary Abraham Accords. On the other hand, the sitting US President Joe Biden is amongst those who cannot tolerate the sight of a peaceful Middle East. The Middle East was headed towards some degree of peace, with Iran-backed Houthis facing some major setbacks at the hands of a re-energized offensive by the Saudi-led coalition in central Yemen. The Saudi-Iran thaw in Yemen seemed very likely. But this is exactly when Biden decided to step in and announce a withdrawal of troops from Iraq and shift the Saudi-Iran fighting to the Arab country sandwiched between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Last month, Biden hosted Iraq's Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi in the US. The Iraqi Prime Minister is working with a divided personality split between the US ally and the pro-Iran teams at home. The agenda of the Mustafa Biden meeting was to tend to the issue of the presence of American troops in the Arab country located in between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Around 2,500 US troops have been deployed to Iraq as a part of an anti-Islamic State coalition. These 2,500 troops aren't technically combating forces, rather they serve as advisors and trainers. Apart from the 2,500 troops, an unknown number of additional US Special Forces are believed to be stationed in Iraq. However, a withdrawal of US armed forces without any prior planning is bound to open up Iraq to a tug-of-war between several countries, including Saudi Arabia, the US, Iran, and perhaps even Israel. The fact remains that the retreat of soldiers is a part of the political agenda of the Iran-aligned political lobby in Iraq. They have been continuously demanding the withdrawal of all the troops from the US-led global coalition against the Islamic State because they feel that Tehran's influence in the country gets undermined due to the presence of American forces. With the benefit of hindsight, we know that it is a part of Iran's long-term strategy to have US troops withdrawn from Iraq and fill the vacuum and mount its influence in Baghdad. Iran already operates a vast network of proxy militias in Iraq, which is a part of Tehran's strategy to shore up its influence throughout the region. However, any such development gets Saudi Arabia worried, which does not want its religious rival Iran taking control of neighboring Iraq. Therefore, a hurried Saudi Arabia has tried to appease Iraq. Saudi and Iranian officials reportedly met in Riyadh and analyzed the future of Iraq-Saudi ties and how they can evolve in a mutually beneficial way. Last month, the Saudi Minister of Commerce, Majid bin Abdullah al-Kasabi, said, "The kingdom's first and last concern was to support Iraq and its stability," indicating that the kingdom supported Iraq in the reconstruction of cities liberated from Daesh through the Saudi Investment Fund. Meanwhile, Iraq is also on the radar of the newly elected Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi. Iranian media outlets are reporting that Iraq's foreign minister is coming to Iran soon. Iran's semi-official Fars news agency reported that Iraq might host Raisi during its first foreign trip, showing the high level of priority that Tehran is giving to Iraq. However, Iraq does not seem to have reciprocated to Iran's advances. Iraq is miffed by Iran's proxy militias and their activities on the Iraqi soil, and therefore it has decided to dump Tehran for good. In an unusual move last week, Iraq accused Iran of spurring extreme water shortages in the eastern part of the country by cutting off tributaries to the Salwan and Karun rivers. According to the Minister of Water Resources in Baghdad, this has caused a water shortage in the Diyala Governorate in the east of the country and affected the quality of water resources in Shat al-Arab in the far south. The minister also threatened Iran of roping in the international community in his bid to exert more pressure on Iran to ensure water rights from upstream countries. At the same time, even Israel is trying to get involved in Iraq. The outgoing director of the Israeli Foreign Ministry's Middle East Division, Chaim Regev, reportedly said that the Jewish nation maintains some contact with almost all Arab countries, including countries like Iraq, that are officially designated as the enemy states by Israel. Regev made seemingly positive remarks about Israel-Iraq ties in the larger context of the changing dynamics with US withdrawal from the war-torn country of Iraq and Iran's heightened activity in Baghdad. In fact, after signing the Abraham Accords with many Arab countries, Israel might be feeling more confident in dealing with even those Arab countries that haven't signed an Abraham Accord just yet. This is why it is ready to get involved in Iraq too, with the blessings of Saudi Arabia. So, just when it seemed that the Middle East was heading towards peace, Biden did what he does best: revive hostility and tensions in the Middle East. For now, Saudi Arabia and Israel have control over the situation in Iraq, but Iran's proxies are just waiting to change that dynamic.